this power up. Oh, Mary, we can't record this. I can't have this recorded. So
and then you're off.
And you know, this is near and dear to my heart because I remember when I'm going to take you back to 2012, November of 2012, and that's when I walked into the KW office. That's when I looked at. That's when I became a KW agent. Before that, I was with a little boutique brokerage, and then I was with Remax in the small town of Brenham, Texas. And then I moved my license out to KW in November of 2012 because I was such a mega agent back then that I wanted to stay with Remax actually. And I called both the Remax offices in Katy, and none of them would call me back. And you know, because I was top producer, I had sold around six houses at an average price point of $60,000. So they all wanted me, right? And then you know, so then Al Rincon, who's our former team leader at KW Signature, called me and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for a brokerage." And the next day I signed with Keller Williams. And it's I call that Remax call the best call I never got back, you know, because it changed my world. And I was in a pretty rough spot. And I remember my team leader asking me how much money I wanted to make in 2013. And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, $40,000. Now, most of you are chuckling whenever you hear that because he chuckled as well. And he said, you know, usually I say double it, but I think you need to triple it. And he said 120,000. He goes, if you come up a little short, are you going to be okay? I'm like, yeah, 100 grand, I'll be all right. And then I called him in October of 2013. And I said, Al, you need to change that script. And I said, you need to change that script to say, instead of saying, if you come up a little short, say, what are you going to do whenever you pass that goal? Because I think my GCI in 2013 ended up being like 158 or something like that. And it wouldn't have, I don't think it would have happened if he wouldn't have got me to think bigger. And, you know, what I love about our family is that we think big, and there's no such thing as thinking too big, right? So with that being said, I had nothing to lose. I had nothing to lose and I had everything to gain. So then I was taking this class called Ignite, and some of you may have taken it. And I remember the instructor talking about door knocking during open houses. And then he asked the group, there was a group of about 30 people. And he said, who's going to go door knock 100 doors today for their open house? And everybody kind of like, you know, like Anthony, everybody just like crumbled, right? And then Kerry, he looked at me and he goes, you're gonna go do it. And I was like, me? So then I went and then I realized that I could print out these flyers for 3 cents a copy at the market center, black and white. And I could print out 100 of them for $3, 5 days a week. That's $15, $60 a month. And they wouldn't charge me until the next month on my agent bill. So like I could get like $60 worth of credit. And I was pretty excited about that. So what I did is that I made up these flyers and I went out and I door knocked my first 100 doors. And then I ended up getting 2 listings out of my first 100 doors door knocked. And I remember I came home. Now bear in mind, it was December of 2012. Now, whether you door knock in December or in June, it's still hot, right? We're all Texans here, so it is still hot. Right now, prime door knocking weather, Brian Miller, isn't it? You leave and you come home and there's not a drop of sweat on you because it is so dang cold out there, right? So with that being said, I came up with a little system. So at first, this was like the first lead gen lever that I came up with that was really systematic, very intentional, and I hold it near and dear to my heart. So how we made it systematic. Now, first of all, when you think about door knocking, I want you to put it in the chat. What is the like? What would hold you back from door knocking? So right now, just fill it up with chat. And I've heard them all. Go ahead, fill it up with chat. Scared? Yeah. Heat? Yeah. Mean people? Fear? Anxiety? Them answering and threatening me? Yeah, Jen. And Jen, that's surprising. Rain, dogs, don't know what to say. I think Anthony knows something about those dogs, right? don't know what to say, gas prices, Joseph, rudeness. Yeah, all of those play a factor. And it comes down to getting over that hump. The hardest part of door knocking, everybody write this down. The hardest part of door knocking is parking the car. Is parking the car and stopping the car and getting out of the car and then starting. That's the hardest part of door knocking. So by the end of this, all the things in chat, them answering, don't know what to say, you're going to know exactly what to say, and you're going to have the tools equipped to go out there and door knock. Okay. And right now, Casey, you mentioned it earlier in the Slack channel, that what's going on with our market right now? Is something happening with our market right now? I mean, it's almost like we're flashing back to 2012, because back in 2012, our interest rates were 5.5%. You know, they were at that 5.5%, 6%. So I don't think the prices are going to go down to 125 again. If they do, let's all get together and let's buy all of them, because that's what we should be doing. And but you know, it's going to get rough. And now what we need to do is that we need to get in front of as many people as possible. This is a relationship based market. The people that you have a relationship with are the people that they're going to use. And how we do this is by getting in front of them and staying consistent. They want to know that you're not there, Sue. They want to know that you're not there for a quick buck, and they're ready to go, and they want to create a relationship. All right. So shifting big time. That's right. My buddy, Joe Madrid. So what I want to do right now is that I want to start off with a little pool, like a pool of houses. And I want you to think of a neighborhood that you want to take over. So like if you were to think of a neighborhood that you want to dominate right now, go ahead and just write it down in your paper. Write it down. Just pick a neighborhood. And Carrie, there's a lot of neighborhoods in Katy, so you don't even worry about whichever one everybody else is picking, because you know what? It's like the chances of us picking the same neighborhood is going to be very rare, right? So, what is that?
I don't want to do Katy.
Oh, okay, well there you go. All right, then it's wide open. So out of that neighborhood, I want you to start off with a pool of 400 houses. Right? Just pick 400 houses. And just like everything else that we do with lead gen, we want to start small. We want to start small because if you go right outside the gate and you start doing 100 doors a day, 5 days a week, if the why is not big enough, then you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out, then you're going to stop doing it. Now Sally, the one of the things that I've learned after teaching this to people all throughout the years is that people they start getting business, and then they start getting busy and they start working in the business, not on the business, and then they stop. Then they forget what got them that success. So you think about 400 homes, right? So 400 homes, and then you want to think of a 10% turnover rate. So if you think about 400 homes and a 10% turnover rate, how many homes are we looking out of those 400 to have sold in the last 12 months? So BKT Midland, red shirt, I read your lips, you said 40, right? So what if you look on there and you see the 400 homes and you see that only 22 have sold in the last 12 months? Does that meet our criteria? Everybody shake your head, yes or no. Does that meet our criteria? If you see 22 have sold, does that meet our 10%? Right, and that's a trick question, because how many sides to every deal? There's 2. There you go, Andrea. There's 2. So therefore, if the 22 have sold times 2 sides, that's 44. Because when you start farming a neighborhood, when you start door knocking a neighborhood, chances are you're going to get some buyers out of that too. So that does meet our criteria. So that's 44. So you have a green light and you go for those neighborhoods. The next thing you want to look for, Samantha, is that you want to see, does an agent have a particular presence in that neighborhood? Do they have a 20% turnover in that neighborhood? For example, if there's 44 sides that have sold, is there an agent that has done 8 to 10 deals of those 44 sides in that neighborhood? Now, I'm not saying it's impossible for you to take over that neighborhood. It's just, it's going to take some extra grit and determination to get there. All right. So, and I'll give you a story about that. And Joseph, I'm sure you remember this. there was a neighborhood here in actually outside of Katy. It's in Brookshire, and it's zoned to Katy ISD. And I remember a friend of mine took a listing in this neighborhood, and he said, and when he took that listing, an agent who thought that she owned the neighborhood called him and said, "What are you doing working my neighborhood?" Yeah, and I'm looking at your reactions right now, because us as BKT, we react a little different than most people. So his name was Jag, and if you don't know, some of you know Jag Bachin. He actually passed away from COVID last year, and Jag was like nicest person, man, nicest person you ever met. And he literally said, he's like, somebody called me and said, "What am I doing working their neighborhood?" And I got kind of protective about that, and I said, Carrie, I said, you know, Jag, if you're not going to stand up for yourself, I'm going to stand up for you. So what I did is that I brought in our team at that time. It was the Corona team. It was before Place. This was in like 2015. I brought them all together, and I said, "Hey, we're going to door knock the bleep out of this neighborhood." And Joseph, you remember this. You remember this intensity. So we literally went, and it was so cool, because in the first 3 weeks we took 3 listings, and we took there were 4 houses in a row. And we literally had 3 of the 4 pending at one time. And it was pretty cool, because we took pictures of all the signs in a row. And then the first listing I took, the seller, or the agent who thought that she owned the neighborhood, called my seller and said, "What are you doing working my neighborhood?" Or said, "Why did you list with him and not me?" And then I called her and I said, "It's your first warning, stop." And then the second listing, my seller was working in his garage, and she got out of her car, crossed my sign, and went and stopped him while he was working in his garage and said, "Why did you list with him and not me?" And at that point, brokers got involved. And then I take things to extreme. My broker was like, "What do you want to happen?" I said, "I want her to lose her license." But you know, the next best thing happened, Elvira. The next best thing happened. She didn't sell a house in that neighborhood for the next 3 years, right? Because we literally went and we started door knocking the crap out of that neighborhood. And we had neighbors calling us saying, "Hey, we get it. Whenever we decide to list, we're going to call you." Right? That's how much we were door knocking. So yeah, Giselle, I can definitely share that. So what I'm saying is that whenever you get out there and you door knock, there's so many reasons why you don't want to door knock. Heat. That's the number one thing. It's like I go outside to check the mail. I come back and I'm drenched, right? That's the number one thing for us that goes. But I'm telling you right now, you got to get out there. You got to do what people aren't willing to do. And believe it or not, a lot of people aren't willing to go out there and put some sweat into this. And I encourage everybody to go out there and meet people, because it's not about taking a listing. It's about changing somebody's life that on the other side of the door. So what I did was, and this, Giselle, this goes back to what you were saying. I created a flyer, and Joseph, I'm going to ask if you could send that out to Mary, and Mary, if you could send it out to everybody, you can have a copy of this flyer. And it's the most hideous looking flyer ever, because I created it, and it's on Microsoft Word. Like, it wasn't even like Photoshop or anything. It was like Microsoft Word. And on that market report, I literally put, if you want to write this down, go ahead, and I put how many homes are active, how many homes are pending, what's the average days on market, what's the list price to sell price ratio, how many homes have sold from January 1st to the current date, how many homes sold this time last year. And I give them stats that's easy for us it's easy for us to pull. It's easy info, and it's hard for them to pull because they don't have access to that. So I started creating this flyer. And then when you think about your 400 homes, and when you think about your 400 homes, there's an average of 4 weeks in a month. Is that right? Sometimes I have like a high C that says 4.37 or something like that, but there's an average of 4 weeks in a month. So the reason I break it down into 400 homes is because on the first week of the month, you're going to knock 100 homes. Second week of the month, you're going to knock the second 100. Third week, third 100. Fourth week, 400, right? And then the next month, You have a new month, new market report, first 100, second 100, third 100, 400. And then the third month comes around, and Andrea, you're going to knock on a door and they're going to say, hey, Andrea, you got that market report for me? Because this is going to be the third touch that you've had with them. Even if you haven't talked to them, they're going to get used to seeing your flyer, and they're going to say, hey, you got that market report? And then after 3 months, Andrea, you're going to be able to say, hey, you know what? You want me to just go ahead and email you this information? And then you start taking the territory. Then you start creating the database of that neighborhood. There's a neighborhood here in Katy called Nottingham Country. And an agent in our office, his name's Chris Lapa. He really wanted to focus on that neighborhood. And I remember I taught this in an Ignite class, and he started specifically door knocking Nottingham. And then 5 years later, I went up to him and I said, hey, how's that door knocking in Nottingham going? He goes, oh, it's going great. I mean, I don't really have to door knock it anymore because we have such a presence in Nottingham. And I said, now this is like 2,000 homes. And I said, of Nottingham, how many people of Nottingham do you have in your database? And he goes, oh, I have about 80% of their names, emails, phone numbers, and home addresses. Now, can you imagine if you had that kind of neighborhood in your database getting market reports at all times? And now that's an average price point of $500,000. And that's what catapulted his career, right? So whenever you're creating this flyer, you're giving them information about their neighborhood. So the script that I came up with was I would knock on the door, I would take a couple steps back, and I would smile. And then they would come to the door and I would say, hey, my name's Jaime Corona. I'm with Keller Williams. And the reason I'm coming over is because I want to give you information about the health of your neighborhood. And that's what I told them, the health of your neighborhood. And Sarah, out of the thousands of homes that I've ever door knocked, I've only had one person refuse the flyer. And he wasn't even a jerk about it. He was just saying, sorry, Slick, I don't want it. And then I was walking down the driveway and I was, are you sure? There's still time. You can still get one. And then he still denied it. And then I came back to the office and I mailed it to him. Right. And I mailed it to him because, and that's I know that's a joke. We chuckle about it. But at the end of the day, you got to have fun with this. You got to have fun, and you never know the people that you're going to meet. Have I gotten cussed at? Yes, but they weren't jerks. Now, there's a difference between being a jerk and getting cussed at. All right. So with that being said, before I move on, I want to make sure, because I know I went pretty fast. I want to say, what are your ahas? What are some of the things that you have taken away from this session so far? And just put it in Joe, keep it simple. They're usually nicer to ladies. Tracy. Well, Tracy, I mean, I think you were a school teacher. Everybody's not, I mean, you can't be not nice to Tracy, right? Find your neighborhood and focus on it. Break it down by week. You got to chunk it down. You got to chunk it down because things are going to happen. Now, listen, I had a why behind my goal. And when I literally would knock 500 doors a week, and that's how I built my business. The reason is because, I wasn't making any money, and I literally had one business before, and I was a part-time realtor or a hobby realtor is what we call them. And then that business went down and I literally became a full-time realtor overnight. So when I say I was like catapulted into this business, I was catapulted. Sarah, what you got?
I just wanted to clarify. So did you say that you do 400 door knocks in 1 month and 100 a week? Got that. But then, so after the month is over, you repeat the same door knocking again?
Yeah. So and thank you for asking that clarifying question. In building that relationship, I knocked the doors over and over for at least 3 months. That way, because we already know the turnover's there. And what we do is that we want to build a relationship with them. And then, so every month in your flyer, the only thing that changes is the number of actives, the number of pendings, stuff like that, right? And it comes down to consistency. Brian, you and I have talked so many times because Brian is averaging like one a month where he knocks on a door and somebody says, yeah, I actually want to sell, come on in, right? And then he has to run home and like run comps and run paperwork. And I said, Brian, man, if you just stay consistent, you would like, it would just be, and, but you know what though? He's had a few things come up, like selling a house and buying a house. Right. So Anthony, what's up?
Hey, Jaime, are you wearing a suit when you're door knocking back in the days, or are you just, jeans, t-shirt?
I knew you'd ask that question. So back in the day, I would be wearing a full suit. I would literally wear a full suit when I'd be door knocking. I would leave the house with a light blue
I forgot about.
button-down shirt.
All right.
It was I would leave the house with a light blue button-down shirt, and I come home with a dark blue shirt. Because it was so sweaty. Let me go over some of these ahas. So yes, I was wearing a suit. So yeah, break it down, chunk it down. That way it's manageable. And then after that, whenever you're ready to go take over another neighborhood, you just add another neighborhood to your, to your lead gen strategy. And then by the time you know it, because y'all listen, like 100 doors a week. I mean, that's like 25 over 4 days. I mean, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or you can just knock it out. You can knock it out in one day. Nikki on our team went and door knocked 150 doors on Monday, and she survived. She made it. And I think it took her a little bit longer. But here's the difference between door knocking in 2012 to door knocking in 2022. And Brian Miller, thank you for this stat, is that whenever I would door knock 100 doors, I would have maybe 15 to 20 answer. So I would have a 15 to 20% contact rate. Brian Miller is getting a 55% contact rate right now because there are more people at home, right? So what questions do you have around this? Sarah, thank you for asking that question. It's really simple. It's really simple. Now they're home. That's right, Tracy. So, and like I said, anything will work. Anything that we teach within place, any of the lead generation strategies will work. All you have to do is stay consistent with it, right? So, Charlie, I never thought you would ask this. Charlie just asked, what's the best time to go door knock? Now, everybody get your pen ready. Get your pen ready. I'm going to give you the best time to go door knock. Everybody ready to go? When it best fits your schedule. You want to plan your schedule around your schedule, not anybody else's schedule. If you start your career or you start this process around, hey, what time's best for you? What time's best for you? By the time you know it, you would go knock 400 doors at 400 different times of the day. So my best time was always door knocking between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. I would go and door knock. The reason is because after my 4 p.m. door knock, after my last door, I would go home. And so that's what I would do Monday through Friday. By the way, so back during that time, I'd get to the office around 7:15 in the morning. And then I would start, I'd answer emails. I would do all that stuff. So by 8 a.m., my emails were already caught up. And then I would get on the phones and start prospecting. And then by the time everybody was coming into the office, I was leaving the office. And people are like, you're leaving already? I was like, bro, I've already been here for 4 hours, right? And then you go out the door, you go out there door knocking. So, so Jen, that answers your question right there. So really plan a time when you can get out there and door knock. And every now and then I would have like generic flyers just of me and my business. And that way, if I had an extra 20 minutes or 30 minutes, I would just go park the car and I would just go knock 20 doors. Right? It was non-specific. It was just about the Katy market. And then that's what we would do. So do you have a special plan for expireds or withdrawals or FSBOs in a neighborhood, Casey? Thank you. Yes. So I got about 15 minutes left and we're reaching FSBO season. FSBO season, I mean, think about it. How many people in the last 2 years have said, it didn't matter what agent I pick, we're going to sell our house, right? And not only that, especially you all in Austin. I mean, y'all were getting like 300, 400K over list price. I'm like, dude, you can come over here and buy an extra house for the amount that you're going over here in Houston, right? So So if I was like Casey, if I was coaching you one-on-one and I said, hey, Casey, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to close 24 units this year just from for sale by owners. Now, most people would say, hey, Casey, go close 24 units this year just from for sale by owners. And then they would poof, disappear. Well, here's what I'm going to do is that whenever I say, Casey, I'm going to help you close 24 units a year just from for sale by owners. And I'm going to have you contact a new for sale by owner every week that you work. Now I have Casey on a schedule that is 48 weeks a year. That means he's going to take 4 weeks vacation. So Casey, if I was going to ask you, and if you don't mind, unmute and role play with me real quick. If I was to say, Casey, I want you to knock one for sale by owner every week, new for sale by owner every week. How many would that be throughout the year?
48.
48, right? Now 24 would mean that Casey would only close 50% of those deals. Now what I would do is I would tell Casey to go get a dry erase board and put one and make rows 1 through 48. And the first week he would go knock a for sale by owner. And then he would take an item of value, whether it be a market report, a business card, or anything. And let's just say that person's not there. Now it's really easier when I illustrate this on like a dry erase board, but let's just say that person's not there. Then he would just leave his card on the door, and then he would go back to the office and handwrite him a note. Then the next week he would go knock that door again. And then maybe they're home. Then he would walk through, and then he would go back to the office, and then he would send them a handwritten note. Well, then he would go back the next week and say, hey, how's it going? How many showings have you had? So now you're following up with that for sale by owner every single week. But the next week, you got to add in another for sale by owner. And then the next week, another for sale by owner. So by the time you know it, you have 10 for sale by owners that you're following up with, and you're sending them handwritten notes every single week, right? The main thing about, think of a for sale by owner as like a fruit tree. And if you go in and you pick that fruit too soon, you're wasting. Now, the for sale by owners it's a long game. What the problem with a lot of us is that we're high D personalities and we play the short game. We want instant success. Like I love those programs where I can do something for a week and I lose 20 pounds, right? But then the following month I gain all the 20 back. I feel like Lucas Sherrod would say, I've lost 300 pounds during COVID because I've lost 20, I've gained 20, I've lost 20, I've gained 20. And so I definitely related to that. So what would happen is that on week 1, knock the for sale by owner, handwritten note, and you would follow along the process. Then the next week, you would start the process with another for sale by owner. 6 weeks down the road, for sale by owner, week number 2 raises his hand saying, Casey, I'm done with this crap. I'm tired of people not showing up, unqualified buyers going through my house. Then they list with you. And then for sale by owner number 4 lists with you. And then for sale by owner number 1 lists with you. And by the time you know it, you start going. Now, Casey, the number one mistake or number one thing that makes people stop this process, and I see it over and over because I've taught this to so many people, is that when it comes down to, and I see the dry erase board, and they send pictures of it to me for like every week, it would be on week 20, and it would fade away. There's no week 22. There's no week 23. And then I would say, what happened? And you know what? They've taken 4 or 5 listings and they got so busy getting in the business that they forgot what got them that business. And by the time you know it, 6 months goes by and then they're like, oh, maybe I'll start this for sale by owner thing again. You know what I mean? So everything works as long as you have a system in place to do it. Now we have enough knowledge in our head that if you ever knock a for sale by owner and you get in the door, you don't go around saying, I love what you've done to the place. I love this door. I love this door. You say, so where are you moving to? What's going to be in your next house is not in your current house. So the first door knock the first FSBO that I ever door knocked, I know I'm switching gears. Is it okay if I switch gears a little bit? All right. So first for sale by owner that I ever knocked, I swear there was like a Jedi force field around the house, because I would drive by and it would be like, whoa, and I would be like deflected from it, right? And I'm a Star Wars geek, so I'm gonna have a Star Wars thing there. But finally, I got out of my truck and I went and knocked on the door. And this lady answered the door and she's like, yes. And I gave him the script of, hey, my name's Jaime Corona with Keller Williams. And the reason I'm coming by is because I want to know about all the houses on the market, not just the ones on the MLS. May I take a look at your house? And she said, sure. Well, I went in there with like a big badass with a 30-day listing agreement, right? And I, after touring the house with her, I found out that her husband had passed away 11 months before, and he was in a reverse mortgage. So therefore, if you know anything about reverse mortgages, she had 1 month to sell that house. If she didn't sell that house in a month, she was not going to get anything. And at the time, she had about $80,000 in equity. So when I walked in there with a 30-day listing agreement, that's all I had. But whenever I walked in that door, Tracy, I got into, I was overwhelmed by cigarette smoke, right? And nothing, no judgment. It's just she smoked in her house. So I said, Gail, I'll only take your listing under one condition. And what do y'all think that condition was?
Stop smoking in the house.
There you go. I didn't say stop smoking. I said stop smoking in the house. You can smoke a pack a day outside if you want, but you can't smoke in the house. So she had her house listed for $225,000 for 6 months. And 5 days later, we had that house under contract for $247,000. Right. And she closed. And then, and just to let you know how for sale by owner thinks, we sold it for $247,000. And then during option negotiations over $1,000, she was still saying she couldn't afford it. Because that's just a for sale by owner mindset. So you got to deal with that. Okay. So, but here's the best part of the whole story is that since then, Gail and I have done 4 transactions together. So that one for sale by owner knock turned into 4 transactions. We sold her house, then I sold her son's house, and then they all moved in together. Well, whenever I met with them to sell her son's house, she showed up with a vaping pen. Right? She had gone from smoking cigarettes to a vaping pen. Not that anyone is better or worse, yet the last time we closed the transaction, she didn't show up with either one of them. She had quit smoking. Now, if you had talked to Gail during the time when I door knocked, you would know that she wasn't in good condition. And so now every single time I pass a for sale by owner sign, I think of Gail. I don't think of a for sale by owner. I don't think about a paycheck. I think of that could have saved her life. And I know her kids and I met her kids and now they get to spend more time with their mom. So now I don't think about a for sale by owner sign. I think about Gail. That's why every single time I pass a for sale by owner sign, like I think of whose life we can impact at that point. Right. So I just went over door knocking for sale by owners. And I know I threw that in there last minute, but it goes into door knocking as well. Because Anthony, you and I were talking yesterday about for sale by owners. And I said, man, you know, there's no need to pay for data. You can go to forsalebyowner.com, type in the closest mile or 10 miles to your office, and it'll bring up all for sale by owners. Now, the great thing about for sale by owner is that it's going to tell you which ones are up for sale. But here's the caveat is that it specifically tells you you cannot call that number if you're a real estate agent. So what I encourage you to do is that map out your plan and then go door knock them. Now, Samantha, I'm going to give you the key. Like whenever you get into a house for sale by owner, I'm going to give you the key to go and book your next meeting with them before you leave. Now we have access to every compliance form that you could possibly know. And while I'm walking away, I have one of those Columbo moments, which a lot of y'all probably don't know what Columbo is, but you walk away and you go like this, and you're like, oh, one more thing. Casey, are you familiar with the seller's disclosure that the seller has to provide for the buyer?
No, I'm not.
You know, would it be okay if I brought that form by and show it to you? I'm actually available Thursday at 6 or maybe even Friday at 2. Which one would work?
Oh, wow. Yeah, let's do Thursday at 6.
So now I would bring him the seller's disclosure that he would need to provide for the buyer. Now, if he's at the house, he has knowledge of the property, so he has to provide that. right? So then, but now answer it a different way. Answer that you do know what it is.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Okay, awesome. Hey, can you explain to me what's on page 2, letter B, section 2?
No, I couldn't tell you offhand.
Okay, so here's the thing. We don't even know that. Right? So we're throwing that out there because we're going to catch them off guard and be like, I'd love to explain that piece to you, Casey, but why don't I come by, Thursday at 6 or Friday at 2? Then boom, your next meeting is already booked. And then the next time Casey's leaving, oh, hey, who's going to pay all the HOA costs? Would it be okay if I brought that form over? And then by the time you know it, you keep on adding this value to them. And then every time you go and be like, hey, you haven't sold yet? Like, what can we do? And then by the time you know it, they're going to reach a point where they're going to say, Casey, take this off my plate. Right. And it's going to be a follow-up game. It's just like every other thing in our world. It's all about the follow-up. So, so with that being said, what'd you learn today? Give me some ahas. I'd like to get you on camera sharing ahas as well. So yeah, Casey, the fortune is in the follow-up right there. So any last minute questions, or I want to hear some ahas. What you got? Because I know I went through pretty quick and I drank a cup of coffee before this. Yeah, Maurice.
I got to keep getting in front of your leads, just keep showing up in front of them, providing that value for them, and just staying after it. You can't just touch them once. You have to touch them multiple times in order to get the result that you really want out of your lead generation.
That's right. That's right. You got to build that relationship. Thank you, brother. Ray.
Hey, let me get my video. Hey, how you doing, man? Thank you so much for sharing that. I've always wanted to incorporate door knocking in my schedule. And, I was thinking, oh, I have to do it from 5 to 7 because that's when everybody's home. But then you mentioned that people are working from home now. So they're there. Yeah. And I like how you said, put it in your schedule. That's the best time to do it, because I'm one of those people that I always try to make time for other things. And I just haven't been able to door knock because that's family time. But now I'm going to do it on a time when I can and
That's
get
right.
my neighborhood going, because there's a bunch of houses selling around my home. There's real estate agent flyers on my door, and I'm like, what?
That's right.
So thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that. That helps me out so much.
Yeah. And Ray, one of the last things I want to add here is that people will call you based on your flyer. So if you leave it on the door, keep some Scotch tape with you and tape it to the door handle. Tape it to the door handle. That way they don't have to reach down and pick it up, or it's just really convenient for them. But
Awesome.
there are times when you're going to walk into these houses and your flyer is going to be on the refrigerator.
Nice.
Right?
I can't wait to see that day.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray.
Mhm.
Charlie. You're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. So FISBOs are always something that's kind of been scary to me, just like dialing. So I really like the idea of actually going out there, getting in front of them and providing value that way, because it's definitely going to make a larger difference versus the people who are calling them every single day trying to list their house.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, and Brian Miller will tell you, like, he hates the dialer and he actually hates door knocking as well. And I'm like, dude, pick your poison, which whenever you want. But he'll tell you, like, I remember he came up to me so many times. He's like, let me tell you why door knocking is better than dialing. And I'm like, brother, you don't have to tell me, man. I was like, I built my business on door knocking. Now, I do have a great Brian Miller impression too. So we're good. Thank you, Charlie. Hey, if you need any help, let me know. Tracy.
Hey, Jaime. I loved your tracking information because I think, in place we're so big on tracking, right? But for a lot of agents, it's a new thing. And I love the whiteboard example. And they can do that with any of their lead gen methods, right? And it provides a plan, and it allows them a visual to really see how they're doing and to track it so that they can make adjustments when needed. So that was excellent.
That's exactly right, Tracy. And that's why people come up to me, and I'm not very techie, but they say, can I just start a Google sheet on it? And I say, hey, how many Google Sheets have you ever created and never looked at again? Or how many spreadsheets have you created and never looked at again? And that's why Tracy, and you know what, Tracy, maybe you and I can get together and we'll develop a prototype, and then maybe we can get one created for all of BKT Texas. So
You know what? We've been talking about lunch, so let's do
yeah,
it.
let's do it. Let's do it. Memo.
What's up, Jaime? Thanks
Hey,
for
brother.
doing this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I really like your opening line for door knocking, which is basically, I'm here to share some information about the health of your neighborhood. I'm curious about what was on your flyer. Like, what information did you have on it, and how did you produce it at a time before you could ask a place VA to produce it for you?
Yeah, and actually, you know what, Memo? I wouldn't even ask somebody at Place to create it, because if you create it, it's going to mean more to you. That's why to this day I can talk so passionately about it. The main thing is that I call it the money making portion of it. You have market stats, and listen, people love bullet points. They don't love long paragraphs. So keep it in bullet points. How many are active? How many are pending? List price to sell price ratio. Now, if days on market is like 60, you don't want to put that on there. Put stuff that is attractive to them on there. And then on the bottom of it, put in really big letters, whatever the neighborhood is, specialist. Willow Creek Farms specialist, Waterstone specialist. Because the fact that you already took the time and researched these numbers, you are a specialist in that neighborhood. So I'll get a copy of the flyer out to everybody.
That'd be awesome, man. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. Ryan.
Yes, sir. Hey, mine's not really an aha, but that was a great impersonation of me. I love it. Love you, bro.
There you go. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Nikki.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up that you are right. It is a lot easier. The hardest part is getting out of the car. And what I found just from doing it, I did it 4 hours on Monday, and then I did it 3 hours on Tuesday. And it's just like being able to be in the community, you do start to like learn patterns with people. I think every other house that I knocked with, someone was home. So just taking advantage, like I went in the middle of the day. It was a little bit hotter, but I mean, there was a breeze. And people will talk to you for that. I've had a bunch of people being like, why are you outside? Being like, I'm just trying to, get familiar with the neighborhood. Is there anything I should know about? And then they give you information, and then you can add that to the flyer. So that was one thing that I've noticed. So it's a lot easier than it seems. It's not as daunting, I think, as we make it to be.
That's right. And Nikki, you're on week 1 of door knocking, and I can't wait to spotlight you on a power up one day, 6 months from now, when you're going to be like, I'm sorry, I can't attend power up because I got so many listings right now.
Yeah.
From door knocking. So awesome. Mary, thank you. Andrea, thank you all for being on the call. I'm like, it's just super pumped to share this with you all. Maybe one day, I'll like I said, we'll share the flyer with you, and then we'll come up with a dry erase board, and we'll send a picture out to everybody on this. Every time I teach this, the stock in dry erase boards goes up. So right now we need that stock to go up. We need every stock to go up. So let's go and let's make it through this all together. If y'all need anything, y'all let me know. It's 9:18. Peace out.
Thank you,
Great,
Jaime.
man. Thank you.
Very welcome. See ya.